All right, we're going to learn how to reflect an object across a given line. And I have this problem written over here on the left. Rectangle ABCD is shown on the coordinate plane. As you can see, the ABCD can be any of these because I did not label them. Part 1 says reflect rectangle ABCD across the line x equals -1 to create rectangle A prime, B prime, C prime, D prime. So the first thing we do is have to figure out where is this line x equals -1 because we have to be able to visualize it. So if I am on x here, this means x equals -1 just means x is always going to equal -1. So if I type in x equals -1 as a line, this purple line shows up. So if I count, if y is 0, x is -1. If y is 1, x is -1. If y is 5, x is -1. It doesn't matter where it is, it's always going to be -1. So looking at that, for part 1, I want to reflect across this line. So you have to be very careful because now this becomes our new line that we're going to be looking at. We're not going to be looking at this y-axis. We're going to be looking at this one when we count the distances. So if we label our first point, let's go ahead and label it we're going to label this first point A. And now to look for A prime, we're going to have to count how many spaces this is away from our line x equals -1. So if we see A right here is on number 1, this is on -1, so if we count those spaces, we get 2. Therefore, our new coordinate point is going to have to be 2 units away on the other side of the line that we're reflecting over. So I'm going to count 1, 2. So I want my point to be right here. So now we're just going to count over and see what that point is. So on the y-axis, this would be 1, 2, 3. It's going to be -3 on the y-axis. And on the x-axis, it's going to be -2. So all I'm doing is just plotting that point that we just found by counting. Now you can see that point has been reflected over the axis. Over this line, x equals -1, and so now we're going to call that A prime. So then we can just do the same with all the other points. So this point right here, point B, is 5, -2. I'm going to make this one black just for consistency. Okay, so point B is 5, -2. And let's go ahead and label that B. And then we're going to have to put it over here on the other side. So let's see how many spaces it is away from this purple line, which is x equals -1. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if I start here, I have -1. I'm going to go 6 spaces to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So my point needs to be right here. And if we're not sure where that point is or how we're figuring it out math-wise, you can just use your units that are right here. So you can use your x. You can say 5. This one is, since this one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units away on the right. This one's going to have to be 6 units away on the left. So if we start at -1 and go backwards 6 units, -1 minus 6 is -7. So we know that's where our point's going to have to end up. -7, comma, and we're keeping it on -2. So we're making a nice rectangle. So as you can see now, that point B is now reflected over, and we'll call that one B prime. And I'm going to change this to blue to keep it consistent. All right, so now we just have 2 more points. So let's do point C, which will be our point down here. So the coordinates for our point C, I can look up here because I already have them, is 5, -7. And we're going to go ahead and label that one as C. And then we got to figure out how we're going to get across all the way to this side. So remember, B has to be under C here. So we can count how many spaces it is. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces to the right, so we need to go 6 spaces to the left. We know it's going to be under B prime right here. So if we count 6 spaces, -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6, we get -7. And then if we count down to where our other coordinate is, so here we counted 7 and we're right here, but now we have to figure out, so that's 7 away from this purple line, or is it 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry, 6 away from the purple line, but that lands us on -7, right? So then we just need to know what our x coordinate is. So we end up the same as B prime right here. So that's -7. And then our other coordinate, if we look down here, is also -7. So we have 2 -7s, and we're going to call this point C prime. Change that to purple. So as you can see, this C is reflecting over here. And then our last point is D. 1, -7 is where we're starting with it. Let's go ahead and label that D. And then if we want to reflect over the x-axis, we know it's going to have to be under the A prime right here. We know it's going to have to be the same number of units from this purple, so it's 2 units to the right of the purple line, which is our x is -1. So we're going to go 2 units to the left, and our point will be right here. So then if we graph that point, this point is, see how far back it is, -3, and then -7. Okay, and then we have that as D prime. So now we are complete. So I'm just going to make it a, we want to put them all together. So using this calculator, the way I can put them all together is by putting all the points in a table. So I'm going to put my A prime is -3, -2. My B prime is -7, -2. My C prime is -7, -7. And my D prime is -3, -7. And just so you see what it looks like, so if I do the lines like this one, notice it's not going to do my last line. So that's why I have to put that A back in at the end. 3 and -2. Okay, so now I have all my lines. So this is my rectangle A prime, B prime, C prime, and D prime. And that was across x equals -1. Now if we go back up here, we have a part 2. So don't forget about the part 2. If you're busy working, make sure you go back and reread the question at the end to make sure you have completed the question. The question for part 2 says reflect the same rectangle ABCD across the line y equals -1 to create A double prime, B double prime, C double prime, and D double prime. So now instead of x equals -1, our line is going to be y equals -1. You should be able to kind of picture that in your head, where it will be if y equals -1. Okay, and it's going to be this blue line right here. So y is -1, no matter what else happens, y is always -1. So let's go ahead and put in our new coordinates for the double primes. Okay, so now we're going to reflect over or in or across this y equals -1. So point A, I'm only 1 unit away right here, so I only want to be 1 unit away when I go across the reflection. So that point is 0, 1. Just kidding. It's 1, 0. Don't make that mistake. It's a very common mistake to make, but as you can see, when we put it on here, we can see that it was wrong, right? So that's going to be A double prime. And then we're going to go ahead and try B. For point B, we're only one away from the line, so we only want to be one away from this line on this side. So point B double prime is going to be 5, 0. As you can see, 1 unit away here, 1 unit away here. And then C and D are a little bit further away, right? So we're going to have to see how many points away from this blue line is point C, because don't count from the 0. So I can't just use -7. It's on the point -7 if we're plotting on the XY axis, but I can't use that because I have to start at -1 instead of 0. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we see it's 6 spots away from this axis. So we're going to have to count up 6 on the other direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we end up right here on point 5, 5. So we're going to make 5, 5 be C double prime. And let's change the colors of these so that they're consistent. I think we kept A black, B is blue, C is purple. There we go. And we only have one more. D double prime. So we know, we just counted C, it's going to be the same because it's a rectangle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So then if we go up 6, start at the blue line, count up 6, we end up right here. So our x coordinate is going to be 2. Our y coordinate is going to be 5. Oh, just kidding. X coordinate is going to be 1. So I'm just eyeballing it, but as you can see, I didn't look at the axis correctly, so I could tell immediately that there was an error. We're going to call this D double prime. Then we're going to go ahead and connect those. So let's add a table. So we've got 1, 0, 5, 0, 5, 5, 1, 5, and then we're going to put our first point in again, and then we're going to click this lines button, and now we have our next rectangle. So if you're turning in something like this for an assignment, all you would have to do is screenshot this little portion of your screen, and you can just drag and drop it into the Dropbox. Easy as pie. So that took a few minutes to do this one, but it's not difficult. It's just time consuming, and you need to be meticulous and make sure that you're counting correctly. And when you put your points down, if they don't look right, they probably aren't right. So you'll want to make sure you go back and check them. All right, thanks. Y'all have a good day.